Alright, hello everyone. Make sure my mic is on. Yeah. So this is going to be my second PHP tutorial. If you have no previous experience with PHP, I recommend you look up my first one. The link is on my Twitch page. Let me just go ahead and show you that. Okay, I have a link here, Intro to PHP. You can go to twitch.tv/lsmjudoka, and then the link is here. I uploaded my first tutorial to YouTube. This tutorial on YouTube is very beginner friendly. It'll take you through the basics of what PHP is, what you need to install in order to use PHP, and just pretty much everything introductory that you need to know. For this tutorial that I'm doing right now, I'm not going to be quite as beginner friendly. I'm going to assume you know the basics of PHP, and I'm going to go into some more advanced concepts. Not terribly advanced, but if like I said, if you have no experience, I recommend watching the other tutorial first. I'll be uploading this tutorial to YouTube later as well, so that you can watch it then. So in this tutorial, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making an online store. So basically, just to get an idea of what I want to make, right? So for an online store, a really good example of an online store would be Amazon.com. Okay, this is probably the biggest online store, period, bar none. You've got let's just take a look at what it has, because I don't think I went over this so much in my first tutorial. But before you program anything, there's 5 basic steps. I'm actually going to go ahead and put these up on my screen now. It's 5 steps in the programming process. Figure out what it needs to do. Plan how it will do that. Code it. Okay, this is the basic programming process. I feel this is relevant. This is something a lot of PHP tutorials might not tell you. A lot of PHP tutorials, in particular because PHP is a little bit easier than some standard programming languages, a lot of tutorials will skip over this, the whole planning part, and they'll just go straight into, okay, this is how you write this code and that code, and so on and so forth. But this is really important for you to actually be able to write and code any type of web page you want. This is what's going to make you not just able to code an online store, but you can code an online store, you can code a blog, you can make a game, you can make a social network site. If you once you've mastered the programming process, you can make almost anything. This is how you'll approach a problem that you look at it and you go, I have no idea how to code this, and you can apply this and figure out how to code it, which is the primary thing that programmers have to do, and that's really what defines computer science. So anyways, we want to make an online store, right? Part of the programming process up here, I'm going to reload this also. We have to figure out what it needs to do, plan how it will do that, code it, and then test it and fix any problems. Okay, let me make a new note here as well. So to figure out what it needs to do, we're making an online store, right? So the whole point of an online store is that we want the user to be able to buy products. So let me just fix the size here. Sorry. Okay. Buy products. This is the main goal. Buy products. But you can't just buy a product. Let's see. So if I go to Amazon.com, I want to buy a product, but I need to look at the products first. So view products. We'll change this to purchase. Okay, so you need to view products. Then we're going to want to be able to. We probably want a cart. Add products to cart. Checkout. What else do we want to be able to see? To add on to this, when we say view products, name, description, maybe reviews. Reviews would probably be good. Okay. This is another interesting thing. They have users. You see, they have Nathan Chubbuck and Bronson C. That seems like a good idea to have users, because when you have user accounts, someone can maybe save their shopping cart or whatnot. So let's add user accounts. And, we need to be able to register these accounts, leave reviews, save cart for later. Now, I'm going to note here that I'm writing down a lot of things. We're not going to create the entirety of Amazon.com in this tutorial, but I'm just writing all these things down. We'll get the main functionality up, and then I'll probably make a second tutorial where we go more in depth and probably add more things. Okay. Let's see, what else can we do on Amazon.com? We can search. So view products. Not just search for products, view products, but we can search for products. Search products by category. So we need categories for products. You see they have video games, home and kitchen, jewelry, MP3 music, all that. What else? I think that covers the most of it. So we want people to be able to search products, view products either by category, maybe search products by category too. I don't know. Just throw all this in there. When you're figuring out what the program needs to do, honestly, I recommend just put up a notepad, throw as many things as you can think of on there. You can always take things off later, but if you don't think of things first, then you won't know them later on. Okay, reviews. We can see things by category. Sort by price, alphabetical. Because look, if we search for this, we want sort options to be able to sort these things. So that seems good. I think that's a good number of things that we can do. Okay, so the second thing we need to do is we need to be able to plan out how we're going to do that. But first, when we take this, I want to make this as detailed as possible. The key to the first step of figuring out what it needs to do is figuring out what it needs to do in as much detail as possible. For now, since we're still a little bit new to programming here, I'm going to not necessarily go too much into detail, but when you're actually planning out a project, the more details you can figure out, the better. There is literally no detail too small in a programming project. You want to figure out that you want to display exactly 37 pages with exactly 4 products per page. You want the spacing on the layout to be 30 pixels by 24 pixels. That's fine. The more detail, the better. But for now, we're just going to get started into things, because if you have no idea how to program a store and you have limited knowledge of PHP, this all probably seems quite daunting. So first off, before the user can do anything, they need to be able to view the products. Okay, this is what I like to do in the second step for programming, because this is what's kind of hard. People say, okay, I need to make my program do all this, but how the heck am I going to do that? Well, to figure out the flow of the application, or in other words, how it's going to run, put yourself in the eyes of the user and visualize what you want your site to look like. When the user first comes to the site, what do you want them to see? Alright? So the first thing they're going to do is they need to be able to view the products. So we're going to add another note here because we're going to make a plan. Let me title this real quick. I'm going to underline it as well. Strange. Start by displaying all products. Allow user to view specific product. These are the startings of an algorithm, which we'll go into a little bit more later. And if you don't know this terminology too well or you don't remember it, that's fine. It's common terminology in computer science. If you only have a vague idea of it, you'll still be able to develop programs. And then if you happen to do any other learning elsewhere, you may recognize some of the terms. Just want to make sure there's no issues here. Okay, so we want to start by displaying all the products, allow the user to view a specific product, add products to cart, check out. So these are general steps. This is what we want to start with. So first off, let's tackle these tasks one at a time. Let's start with displaying all the products. In order to display a product, we need to know what information should be stored about each product. So let's say each product needs a name, a price, a little bit early, but probably a category, a description, and image. We don't need to do images for now. We could add images later. I think this is a good base for it. We need a name, a price, a category, and a description. That should tell people a general idea of what the product is. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and make a PHP file here. We'll just call this one, we'll just make an index. A good habit when you're coding programs is to document. Author. So if you just throw a little thing in the front of each file saying, you know, what the file is, you know, index.php, who coded it. Okay, purpose. We don't really, we're still figuring this out, so for right now, all we know is that we want to be able to view products. We'll add more to this later. An interesting note here, by the way, in PHP, you can always add the tag like that. For some reasons, you may want to actually exclude that, but that's more advanced and it's not necessary to know at the moment, so you can just include it all the time. I just check, and as long as you guys can see and there's no stream issues, it's fine. Okay, so we want to be able to view the products. What did we decide each product can do? Name, price, category, and description. Okay, let's make a product, a mock product. Let's say, okay, product name equals sneakers. Okay, product name, price, category, and description. We're just going to make variables for each of these things. Category. $24.99 equals shoes. Description equals black sneakers, good for walking or athletic activity. Index.php. Let's Google sneakers to see what sneakers look like. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Okay, so we have our file here. We're connected, so go ahead and upload it. Now let's go ahead and make some HTML for our page. I'm going to do this as beginner friendly as possible. So normally what you want to do when you're making output, you want to make a separate file for the layout of the page. Kind because it externalizes it. But for this, I'm going to start out not doing that, and then I'm going to export it later so that you can see. So for now, I'm just going to make the output here. Okay, we're going to say. Let's see, think of a cool name for our store. If Amazon.com is the biggest retailer, what would be a good name for a competitor of Amazon.com? Amazon is like a river, right? What's another big river? Mississippi. But everybody knows the Mississippi. It has to be like I know I'm wasting time here. Yeah, SQ store. Nah, I can't be specific. Can't be specific. This needs to be like, come on, we're advertising moguls now. We're coming up with a new brand. Okay, the next Amazon, the next Facebook, next Albertsons, the next there's Zappos is that fancy reseller with the stores. Google brand name generator. This should be interesting. Company name. Super what? Crazy Ink. Paper Up. Lucky Cat. Flame Girl. I don't like this. Let's find a better one. Choose a category. Short and catchy names. How are these even? Okay, this is really bad. This site is horrible. Online store. Yeah, no. Yeah, man. Finding a name can be important sometimes. OnlineStore.com, best online store. Well, there's a store called Best Buy. Let's make it something revolving around the word shop. Drop Shop online store. Drop Shop retailers. Drop Shop Inc. There we go. Welcome to Drop Shop. Like shop till you drop. Okay, and then let's make this a H2. Okay, actually I'm going to do this because we're going to want to format this later. Welcome to Drop Shop. Our product, sneakers. Price, $24.99. Category, shoes. Okay, we're going to take out this about because that actually doesn't look that great. Black sneakers. Good for walking or athletic activity. Great. This is kind of crappy. So I mean, the layout's not too great, but that's okay. We got this displaying, so we can display a single product now. But we're probably going to actually want multiple products. In fact, we're probably going to want a lot of products. So if you watch the first tutorial, you'll know what an array is. We're going to go ahead and make a products array. And we're actually going to do a two-dimensional array. If you're not familiar with the two-dimensional array, basically you should know by now that an array is it's like a file folder for variables. So you can put multiple variables inside under one name. Well, what you do with a two-dimensional array is essentially you put an array inside an array. I know we're getting on some Inception level stuff right here, right? But let me just do this real quick to show you. Okay, so if this is how we do an array, right? Array. There's two ways you can define an array actually. So you could do it this way. Okay, so now we have all this laid out in an array, but there's an easier way to do it, which is to use the array function here. So you can do all of this in one statement with this, like this. Watch. Array. Actually, this should be 0. Okay, so what you do is you use the array function, and then inside this, you put a bunch of what's called key value pairs, which is just like this. Okay, you see here name. Sneakers, right? This is the name of your variable, right? Name, price, category, description. That's the name of your variable. And then the value inside that is sneakers, $24.99, shoes, black sneakers, good for walking, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So this is called a key value pair because the key is like, in the same way that a key is like how you access your house or a lock or something like that, the key is the way you access the variable here. So you can just do this, name, and then what you do is you do an equals sign and an angle bracket to say that this is the value that goes in name. This is a little bit weird. You might not be used to this because most variables you use a single equal sign. This is just some special notation for this array. Okay, so I'm not going to do a two-dimensional array yet actually. I'm going to do the one-dimensional array just to show you that it works. You separate these each with a comma. The last one you don't put a comma on. Instead, you close out the array with the parentheses. You see the red, it notes that it marked it, and then a semicolon. Okay, so this is now irrelevant. All that's irrelevant. We're instead going to go here, products 0, name. Because we have products 0, name, price, category, description. Name, price, category, description. It all matches up. And what this does, by using this instead of the way we did it before, where we were defining each thing individually, this saves you from having to write product 0 4 times for each thing. You just write it once, and then you list everything that goes inside that. Okay, this should now work. Let's test it. Something's not working. Oh, this just needs an S. So I made a typo there. It was I didn't fully change that name to products. I only had it as product with no S. So it should work now. Okay, so that works now. Any questions so far? Alrighty, so we're all good. We're going to go ahead and add a second product to the array. So product 0 is an array, right? We can just do this. Copy this over. Change the 0 to a 1. This is... Okay, this, let's make it, let's see, let's do a shirt. What's a good shirt to have? Let's make it, a popular shirt would be... Make it a red silk shirt. Let's do it a fancy brand. What's one of those fancy brands? Armani. There we go. Armani red silk shirt. Should probably add like a trademark icon here. They're gonna sue me. Price ridiculously overpriced. That's probably about what it costs.
I hate you, Mimi.
I would just say shirts. It's fine. Fancy Italian red silk shirt. Very spiffy. Sure to attract the ladies.
Do I need a reason?
Okay, now we can copy this and put this here. And just change all this to 1. And it should work, right? Armani red silk shirt. There we go. Sweet. It works. But now, you might be noticing a pattern here. If you see all this code is the same, the good thing to remember in coding, anytime you're writing a block of code that's virtually the same, but maybe there's just one slight difference, in this case there's just a 1 instead of a 0, you can probably put it in a loop. So we're going to do that. And we're going to use, I'm going to use a for each loop. I'm actually going to add some styling here as well. We're going to do span style equals font weight bold. This is the equivalent, font weight bold is the equivalent to doing this old B tag. This is what you used to do like this. You would do a B and a closing B, but that kind of styling is being frowned upon now, so you use span and then you put the styling in here. Product name. You might be wondering how I magically get product name here and how does this loop work, and I've never seen this before. I'll explain it in a minute, but I'm just going to do it for now. Okay, there should also be a BR tag here. Actually, I don't remember if I went over that in my previous tutorial or not. One sec, I'll explain that. Let me finish this loop. Actually, what I'm going to do is for each product, I'm going to put it in its own paragraph. And then I'm going to take out all that. That's no longer necessary. We're going to add a comment here, loop to display all products, because it's good to put comments in your code. See, and it works perfectly, and we just cut out half our code. So it's very nice. This is now bold. Okay, now, to go into the difference between a span and a div, I should add P in here as well, because these are all different tags. In HTML, you have, and I'll go ahead and make a new file for this, you have div, P, and span. So conceptually there are a few differences in here. This is some text in a div. This is some text in a paragraph. So in plain HTML, we're just going to put these three in plain HTML and see how it behaves. Okay, so this all appears normal. But now let's try doing this. Let's put the span inside the paragraph. This is interesting. Notice this. So when we put the span inside the paragraph, it loses a line. To explain what these tags are, a div is used for an entire section of the page. Divs are usually the top level building blocks of a page. So when you make a layout for a page, you'll usually make a container div. Div stands for like division. And you'll put a lot of other elements inside a div. Usually paragraphs go inside divs. Spans go either on their own or inside paragraphs. So on an actual page structure, this is how it would work. And I'll go over one little concept here as well. Okay, in terms of actually how it separates the text, div and paragraph are both treated as block level elements. Okay, I will add a border to illustrate this. I'll give the div a red border. I'll give the paragraph a black border. And I'll give the span a green border. Just to make this brighter, I'm going to make this red here. Okay, so this is kind of hard to see. Let me add margins on this. That margin's actually not going to work, but that's okay. I'll add padding to this instead. Okay, so this is probably really hard to see actually. So this is probably getting pretty sidetracked. Okay, here we go. So this is your div, this is your paragraph, and this is your span. Okay? I'm going to further illustrate this by adding another paragraph, because this is how your page is usually going to be actually laid out. Okay, what a block level element does, a block level element put space around itself. Okay? So you see this paragraph? I put two paragraphs here. Put a paragraph and a paragraph. If you did this with plain text, normally this is what you would get. You would get text crammed together. When instead you put each of these pieces of text in a paragraph, what happens is they put space around themselves. So you see, this is a nice paragraph, this is a nice paragraph. It puts space above and it puts space below. And anything else that you put after it, that you define after this paragraph tag, is going to go below it. This is also probably one of the more interesting things. Anything you put after it, it will push below, instead of just going off to the side. If you're not familiar with the CSS box model, the box model is a huge part of this. Divs, there's a property called the display property, where a div and a paragraph are both what's called block elements, so they behave like a box. You can increase the size. A span is something that's in line, meaning it displays in a line. You see I put a span here, it didn't put itself below. If I were to change this span to a paragraph, let's watch what happens when I change the span to a paragraph. It moves itself below. You see? And this is the purpose of each. Divs are used to hold other elements and position things. Paragraphs are used to hold a related block of text or content. And spans are used to add styling to text on a line. So, to sum things up, because I just went on a sort of long-winded explanation, it's kind of confusing. This is basically what it comes down to. Divs hold other elements and position things. Paragraphs are used to hold a related block of text or content. And spans are used to add styling to a text on a line. So when you put a span around some text, the only thing that'll change is the styling of the text. A span is usually what you want to use when you want to change the color of the text, the weight of the text, like bold or not bold. You want to add underline, you want to, add some fancy font to it or something like that. You'll usually use a span because the only thing it impacts is the look of the text. A paragraph actually is like a block. So it creates a block on the page that separates it from the content above and below it, and then allows you to modify everything inside. And then divs and paragraphs actually pretty much behave the similar way, but from a conceptual level, a div is like a big container that you use to hold other elements and position things. So, for a live example, I'll just use this. All of this that you see in the center is one giant div going all the way from down here all the way to up here. It holds things. Inside this is like a paragraph. This is like a paragraph. This is like a paragraph. Okay. Alright, so back on track with this. Here's our shop. We have a welcome to drop shop. We have a list of our products, sneakers, an Armani red silk shirt. We have these in an array called products, and then we add, so we have 0, 1. We can go ahead and add a third product, and it should add on just fine. I'm just going to copy this actually. For our third product, we're going to do something different. I'm going to make a cell phone. We're going to call it the that's probably just, yeah, whatever. Okay, this is an important note actually, if you notice how this changes. I started this text string with a single quote, so if I want to use a single quote again in the middle of the string, I need to put a slash before it. A slash is what's called an escape character, and it basically just tells PHP, don't treat this like a literal quote and stop the string. It's just text. It doesn't mean anything. Because normally what a single quote means to PHP is start or end a string. There we go, Samsung Constellation S17. Awesome, so we now have 3 products. So back to our plan. We need to be able to display products, allow the user to view a specific product, add the products to cart, and check out. So right now all the details we have about each product are listed on one line. And this is great for now, but if we had 40 products, 50 products, 60 products, we wouldn't want everything about the product listed on one line. So instead, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our main loop only display the basics. We're going to display the product name, product price, and should we do no. We could do a snippet of the description, but I think we're just going to do the name, the price, and the category. But let's see what Amazon does when you search for a cell phone. Yeah, it just displays the name, the price. It actually displays a picture as well. That'd be cool, but no. Okay, now instead of doing a break here, just gonna add this. Just gonna add little separating lines here. Okay, this is okay, but it looks a little bit weird. So I'm gonna go ahead and what would be a good way to do this? It's a little bit old school, but I'm gonna use an HTML table. Okay, let's try this now. Okay, see, that actually kind of looks pretty good. It formats it now. And what we can now add is we can add a header row. So let's do this. Okay. Let's add a slight border. So I'm adding a slight border on the bottom of each table row now. Oh yeah, I forgot that doesn't actually work. Which is silly because it should, but I don't want bold on like price or the category, only on the product name. Actually, I probably don't even need it on the product name now that we're doing a table. See how this looks. Okay. So we've got a table now, it shows each product. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make each title a link. So we're going to do this, a ref equals. So this way people can view each product. That doesn't actually work yet, but it will soon. And we could definitely improve the formatting of this, but for right now, I'm focusing mostly on the PHP side with minimal HTML and CSS. We'll probably try to make a better layout for this later, but right now I just want to get the functionality working. Okay, so now we're now at our next programming problem, which is how do we make it able to view each individual product? Okay, so the best way to do this, because we're making links to each one, we can examine Amazon has the same kind of thing. They have links to each one, and then once you view it, it has something relating to the title up here, and it gives you more details on it, right? So what we need to do is we need to make our page able to differentiate. It needs to know, do we want to see a single product or do we want to see all the products? The only way you're going to be able to accomplish this in PHP, well, there's a couple ways, but primarily what you need to do is you need to have it so that when the user clicks this link, it passes some information to your program that tells you that you want to specifically view a certain item. Okay? The best way to do that in PHP is by using get variables. So we're going to do this. I'll explain this in a second. Actually, that's not going to work. You know what, I better change this. Okay, so now we have it, so we can click this and it'll say view product equals 1, view product equals 2, or view product equals 3. This is great. How do we access this? Here is the answer. I'm going to do this. This is just to demonstrate the variable. Okay, so let's watch this. We have index.php. When we click this, you see our script now tells us view product 1, view product 2, and view product 3. This is great. We have something identifying this, which means we can likely write some conditional code to make it actually view the specific product. To go over how this works, we have a link here. What our link does is our link directs us to the same page that we're currently on, index.php, but it adds this. It adds view product equals ID. Okay, to understand where ID comes from, the for each loop. The for each loop goes through an array. It's a special loop designed for arrays. It goes through each item in the array, and it loads all of this data. So you see you have like this. This is an example. I'm going to copy this down here just to show you what the for each loop does. Okay, so this is what our information in the array looks like, right? It goes through each item like this. It takes this first item. It loads all of this information. It dumps that in a new array called product. And then it takes this ID and it puts that here. This is optional. You can leave it out. If you only do this, it will simply copy this information into this variable and leave it alone. But if you add this, and the name of this does not matter at all. You can name this carrots equals napkins. But if you notice this operator here where there's the equals and the angle, it's the same one we used in the array to denote the column and the value, or the key and the value. Okay. So this will be the current key for whatever's in the array. So you have products 1, products 2, products 3, right? If you notice 1, 2, and 3, if we go to our page, look down at the bottom, it's 1, 2, and 3. So by putting this ID here, we can create a link that links to each product by its own ID. Now all we need to do is separate this so that it displays the right that it displays a single product instead of all of them. So what we can do is we can say, we'll take this down here. Okay, welcome to Job Shop. Our products. This we're gonna have to change. We're gonna write some conditional code to say if we have a product that needs to be viewed, so we have some conditional code now. Okay, so if the view product variable is set, which by the way, I should do set. So if that's set now, which is only done through this link, if you look at the bottom, then we'll display that product. Otherwise, we'll display all the products. Okay. So we'll go to index.php. We now see all of them. If we go to here, oh, that's not working yet. Let me upload. Okay, it's blank, but that's okay because there's no code here. Let's make sure this is working. Okay, so that is working indeed. Now we just need to build the page to view the actual product. We're not going to use a table for this one because we want a more individual view, so I'm going to do a P. The other question is, we have this variable that tells us, or here, right? View product 1, or 2, or 3, which are all of our products in this array, right? So we can access the information using this product array, like I'll demonstrate here in a second. Products. Those are placeholders because we need to code that. But I'm just going to upload this and show how it works. Armani red silk shirt. Okay, so again, our array we have 1, 2, and 3. When we display this array, the ID of each item in it, 1, 2, and 3, is put inside this link in the view product variable, which gets passed through the URL back to the script here. Okay, so it goes full cycle. And since this product ID is going to be 1, 2, or 3, we can use that to access the correct product. So since this product ID is 2 right now, we're accessing product 2, which is the Armani red silk shirt. That makes sense? Okay, so hopefully this isn't too confusing for you guys, but this is the common way to deal with arrays. You use a loop, and then the unique thing about this is by basing everything on the loop, our display is based on the loop of the products. So since we're using our loop to display the products, it automatically displays exactly the number of products we have. And since we're using this ID variable, it can take the ID of each product and put it in a link. And that's again what we call it the key. Because instead of just having a standard of products and not knowing which one to have, we pass that key through the link back to our own script. And then we can use that to display just the right product. So we'll go ahead and add display here for the rest of them. Yeah, I'm good. That was actually my sister laughing in the background. I'll just leave that as is. There we go. So we can set up this display however you like. Shirts is probably irrelevant at this point. We probably don't need to display that. Let's look at how Amazon displays it. Okay, so Amazon displays, we have the name here, the price below it, description as well, and then it displays up here. Okay, we could do that. We could make the category display up here. This will come into play later when we add categories. Yeah, most tutorials, they just kind of jump into it and write all the code, but that only teaches you how to code that specific thing. It doesn't teach you how to think for yourself and code other things. Hopefully my examples about the specific code things are understandable. If you have any questions about any aspect of this code at all, if you don't understand it, you want a little more explanation on, like, how this array magically gets through or anything, feel free to ask at any time. That's the thing I'm most concerned about, making sure everybody understands the individual things. But you can also look up individual tutorials on how, like, an array works, how get variables work. These are also called form variables and stuff like that, if you're unsure about any of these. Or you can send questions to my email. I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so what we're going to do up here is we're going to try to make, I'll explain what I'm doing here. If you see here how you can go to, like, the category of the cell phones, alright, or you can go all the way back to Amazon, the home page. So what I want to do is I want to make a link up here for cell phones so that everybody knows this is the category, right? So that you could click, once I get all the functionality working, you could click shirts and you'll be able to see all the shirts. For now, what I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to do this. I'm going to say I'll sort of show you what I'm going for. There you go. See? Drop shop, you can go back to the beginning. Or shirts, you can do this. This link actually needs to be... There we go. For now, we're just going to make it index.php. Later on, we'll change this so that it'll view a certain category. Okay, that should do it as well. There we go. So now we can go back to our page. We can view our constellation as 17. Go back to the shop, view sneakers. back to here. So we'll have a way to easily get back to the home page. So we now have a basic functionality to where we can view all the products, which is very nice. And then while viewing each product, we can go to here. I'm going to go ahead and add this link to the home page, just so this is consistent. This is sort of going to become like a mini menu so that people can view a product and they can go to a certain category or back to the main page from anywhere on the site. So we're going to make this here. Even if we don't have that, we're going to do this. Here we go. Maybe I should make this a... yeah, I should do this. I'm going to make it its own paragraph. Because the paragraph also, it adds a new line after it, so we don't need to use the BR tag. You see all these things I use a span and a BR tag. If you use a paragraph, it automatically puts the new line below it, so you don't need to use the BR tag. Display site links. Okay, here we don't have any categories, so we just do this. So you see now we have a consistent menu going here, where it's all in the same place. So that's pretty cool. Okay, now I'm going to show one more thing with the arrays, and it's how to take this a step further. Rather than defining each of these individually, we can define them all in one statement. If you want to define a two-dimensional array using the same notation, you can do this. Okay, so in the same way that, when you have an array, you define each item inside it. When you have a two-dimensional array, you define an array, and then you define each array inside the array. So we've got some inception going on right here. Well, we need to take this off. Okay, so we're now saying that product is an array. Inside the array, we have three things: 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is another array, which has name, price, category, and description inside it. Number 2 is another array, also with name, price, category, and description. Number 3, same thing, has an array, name, price, category, description. These could be different if you had different items, because that's how PHP works. But this just allows us to say it in one statement, which is kind of nice. And it works the same way. So our page should be fine here. Yep, everything still works. Alright, awesome. So what did we need our users to do? So we can now display all products. We can allow the user to view the specific product. We also need to be able to add products to the cart and checkout. So how to add products to a cart. This is interesting. How would we do that? So assuming we have no idea how to add the products to a cart, right? To plan this out, how would we store the information? We could probably... well, we know that each product has a unique ID, right? Like sneakers has an ID of, the ID is 1. The red silk shirt, the ID is 2. And Constellation, the ID is 3. We don't call it an ID, it's sort of the ID. So we could store the unique ID because that's how we access it to view it. So in theory, we could do the same thing. We could just we could have an array called shopping cart array, and inside it we could say 1 and 3. We could say, yeah, we could put the IDs of all the products that they have, because that's how you do a little cart, right? If you're going through the store with your shopping cart, you put products inside it. So what we could do is we could have our shopping cart array, and we could put the IDs of all the products we want in there. The only thing we need to add on top of that is, what if you want multiple of a product? Like, let's say I'm really rich and I want like 7 of these red Armani shirts. So we probably need to store the quantity as well. So we're going to store ID of the product, and we're going to store the quantity of the product. Okay, so in order to make this work, we need to be able to add items. Yeah, we need to be able to add items. So let's think about the possibilities if we're going here, right? So let's say I want some snow boots. So I'm going to view my snow boot here, and we'll select size. We're not going to worry about sizes on our website yet. We'll probably add that later. Make a note of that. So we can add it to our cart. So I already have one on my cart. Let's say I want to add another one to the cart. So Amazon tells us there's already an item in their cart. So instead you can actually like go to your cart and you can increment the quantity. So we probably need to be able to do this too. If the user already has an item in their cart. But yeah. Okay, so we could do it that way. We'll just go ahead and copy this. So if the user has an item in the cart already, we'll tell the user to add to the cart. This means we also need to be able to have the user view the cart and edit the cart. So we'll have to add that to here. View cart, edit cart. So we'll make them able to change the quantities and remove items from it. Okay, that should work. So now here we run into one other slight challenge, which is how do you store information permanently? Or not permanently, but how to keep things in the cart, because we have to redefine this every time the page loads, right? Because by default, things in PHP don't stay over multiple page loads. Sessions got cut off on my last tutorial, so I couldn't do that. I'll have to explain that here a little bit. Basically, sessions are the answer. What we're going to do is we're going to add the session start function. And to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to make a new file real quick. I'm just going to write the code, and then I'm going to explain that later. So let's go see our session test script. No, it's in the store directory. Okay, so this gives us a way to store information permanently, just to go over this. So what session variables are is, it's very simply, it's an array, like we talked about before. And what you can do is you can store things into it and you can use them. And the session array, unlike normal variables in PHP, the session array keeps the variables in it between the page loads. So when I talk about a page load, I'm talking about when you refresh like this or you click a link, right? It keeps the information between page loads. So in this instance, what happens is it's storing the count of how many times we've viewed the web page. I should do this. There we go. Okay. Sorry, let me close this. Okay, so when we come to the page, the count is 1 because we viewed it one time. And then each time we load it again, it increments. We've now viewed it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Normally you can't do this, right? Because if you try to do this normally in PHP, you just end up with a variable that just adds 1 to itself. And it's always 1 because it never stores the data. To illustrate that, I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm going to make a variable. Okay, if this variable is not set, let's say we wanted a normal variable. We'll watch the difference between the two. Okay, the count is 1. We refresh, it's still 1. We can refresh this all day, and the count never increments. And so if the variable is not set, we set it to 0, and then no matter what, we add 1 to it. So you can discern by looking at this code and reading it carefully enough that each time we reload the page, this variable is not set. This is how PHP variables behave by default. Any variables you define yourself are not set when the page loads each time. So you have to define them yourself. Makes it really hard to store data permanently. When we change this to a session variable, however, I'm going to do some creative copy pasting here. So let me reset that. Okay, now that we changed to a session variable, it actually stores the value, and it increments it by 1 each time we see it. So on this page it's 4, and when we reload the page, it can count that it's still set. So if it wasn't set, it would get reset to 0. So by the fact that it's increasing, we can tell that it's still set, otherwise it'd be reset. So it holds its value and it stays set between page loads, which is really important. It's something that's really critical to a lot of applications. Okay, so we can use this to store any value we want. We don't just have to use a regular count. We're going to use this to store our shopping cart because we need to store our shopping cart between page loads. And then I need to add a permanent link to view the cart. So let's see. First off, okay, so we have session start added up there. It's important to note you need to have this in a file for sessions to work at all, and you can't have any echo statements like this, and you can't have any space in the PHP file like this. You can't have either of these two things. You can't have space before the first PHP tag, and you can't have an echo before the session start tag. This is because it's complicated, but basically it breaks something with the way the session works. So I'll show you the error that this triggers. Okay, this is the error. Cannot send session cache limiter. Header's already sent. Output started. That's the key thing that you're looking for. Cannot send output started here. Index PHP line 2. So it's already started. Both of those things trigger that same error, so don't worry about that. Okay, but now for how we're going to make this cart work. So we need to be able to add items to it and all that. It gets a little complicated here. We're going to go ahead and do this. So we'll probably add them from the view product page. So while we're viewing a product, we're going to have an add to cart option here. So we're just going to add a little link there. Okay, there we go. So we can add it to the cart. That's not functional right now, but we'll add the functionality in a minute. I'm also want to add a link to be able to view the cart. I'll just put it below the header. A little bit ugly, but it's fine. Okay, where are we? And if you're not familiar with any CSS at all, style equals text align center. This centers all of the text within an item, within an element. The element being like the paragraph or the header. So let's see how this looks. Okay. So that link's there now. Okay, so we have a page for viewing a product. I'm going to copy the display code for some of the initial display code from this general page because I kind of want it to be the same. And we'll add the functionality in a minute. Okay. Oh, I didn't make that link work. Hold on. Okay, so we now have it saying your cart. We can still go back to the main page with this menu. So that's good. Now we want to actually be able to add products and remove them. So what we need to do is we'll go ahead and add Okay, this is a key concept of sessions, by the way. You pretty much always need to have something that checks to see if the variable has not been set, and then sets it to an initial value. In this case, we're going to say it's an array. We're just going to do that. And then you also need something to empty it. So we'll use a trigger for this. Yeah, we can still do this, that's fine. In this case, we don't actually need to destroy the session. But I'm going to add a link here. I want to use the fancy word initialize. This is just so some of our functions will work. Alright, so let's say they have their cart. We need to be able to display all the items inside it, which right now there's no items inside our cart, right? We have no way to add them. So let's add a default thing here to tell the user that they have no items in their cart. Okay, a good way to do this, there's a PHP function called isArray. No, we'll use empty. Okay, empty is a good one. Empty tests to see if there's anything inside a variable, and it means meaningful content. Okay, so it's empty. You just pass a variable to it. So we'll go like this. Okay, your cart if empty session shopping cart.
Stunning surprise.
And we'll say your cart is empty. Okay, your cart is empty. So again, what this empty thing does, and why it works even though we set this to something, this checks the contents of a variable, and it checks to see if that variable, like I said, has any meaningful data inside it. Okay, so basically, if the variable is an array, which this is an array, okay, it checks to see if it has any items inside it. Like if we were to do this on products, if empty products echo no products, that's a good example. So we're checking to see if the products array is empty, meaning there's no items inside it. This is not true. We have products. Okay. If I were to check another array, a non-existent array, like if I were to say cookies equals array, no cookies, we have cookies. And I'm going to use this as an example. No cookies. Okay, to demonstrate some examples, we can change this to a number. If we store a number inside the variable, it won't be empty. We have cookies, okay? However, if that number is 0, see what happens now. No cookies. Okay, this is because 0 is one of the default values that a variable has when it hasn't been set. So if it's 0, or if it's an empty string like this, still no cookies. Or if it's the word false. Or if it's an array with nothing inside it. In all of those situations, empty will become true and the condition will run. Okay, so if your variable has any of those things and you put it through the empty function, this code block will run. Alright? Now if we put 1 inside of this, chocolate chip equals 1. So watch what happens now. We have cookies. Okay, so you see if there's any items inside the array, it will not evaluate to empty. Okay, so if it's empty, you'll say your cart is empty, else display products in cart. We're not going to add this code yet because we don't have anything to add the products to the cart. So now, where do we want to add the products to the cart? We want to add the products to the cart if we're viewing the product, right? And then we're going to have this link to be able to add the product to the cart. Okay. So, in order to add the product to the cart, we're going to set another get variable, and we're going to say add to cart equals, whatever product ID. Actually, we could set a quantity at the same time if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll use an HTML form, actually. Okay, so span is no longer the correct name for this. Generally, if you have something that's on multiple lines, you won't use a span tag, you'll use a p tag. Okay, let's see how this looks now. Go back to our product and look at sneakers. Okay, so now we have a quantity here. We can select our quantity and add to cart. Right now it does nothing though. We probably want to go back to the same page. So, and this is an interesting challenge you might face. When you're submitting a form, how do you get back to the same page that you submitted it from? Which is because that page we do by this get variable, right? So we access this because we have view product is equal to 2. The easy answer is you put this same information, view product equals 2, on the end of the action, the URL inside the action attribute of your form. So you just do this, view product equals product ID. Okay, and now it comes back to the same page. Now you don't see anything happening yet, but I'll show you that in a second. So now what we're going to do in order to actually add the variable to the cart, we need to check to see that this form data has been submitted. We're going to do this because the submit tag is named add to cart, so we can check to see if this is set in the post array. If this form has been submitted, then this add to cart will be set in the post array. You can see that here. Let's test it. So you see, it tells us to add it to the cart. But we need more than that. The other thing we actually need to do is we need the product ID as well. We can pass that using a hidden form variable. Hidden for input tags aren't seen by the user, so you can pass data through them. An important note, though, is that just because they can't be seen by the user doesn't mean that if the user knows what they're doing, they can't go into the code of the page and modify them. So you can't trust even hidden form variables because they can still be modified by the user. Let's see if it's working. We should have a, if we look down here, okay, we named this product ID. So the product ID should now show up in the post array. It's not showing up. We have no number there, which means something is wrong. Oh, let's try this. There we go. Now it showed up. Let's add a little break here. There we go. So we're going to add product 3 to the cart. In order to do this, what we can do, a safe way to do this, to add something to an array. If you don't know how many things are already in the array, because we could be adding this product and there could be nothing in the cart, or we could be adding this to the cart and there could be like 4 other things inside it. So what we want to do is count up how many things are inside the cart. Actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. I want to count up how many things are inside the cart. And count is a special function that counts up how many things are inside an array. So you can use this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say count equals Alright, so here we count up how many things are in the shopping cart, and then what we're doing here is to look at how this works, right? If you have nothing in your cart, this will be 0, right? So if you have nothing in your cart, this is 0. So this is the same as 0 because 0, there's nothing in your cart, this is 0, this is 0. Right? If you have one thing in your cart, so the first thing that's in your cart will be under 0. So it'll be shopping cart 0 product ID equals post product ID, right? If you already have one thing in your cart, this will be 1. So the second thing in your cart then gets set to 1 because the count is 1. So it's kind of confusing. You'll just watch here. I'll echo this out. Okay, so here's what we got. The product ID is 1. The count is 0, which means there's nothing in the array. Right? So this means session shopping cart 0 should be set. So view the cart. This is empty because we have nothing inside it. Alright, where do we have the code for the view cart? So we're going to go back to our code where we viewed the cart, and we're going to use our for each array that we used on the products array. Because you remember for displaying all the products, right? We used a for each array to display everything in the array. We can do the same thing on the shopping cart. Let's do it this way. We'll do it this way. Alright, so this is our first clue into what this is. So, we view all of our cart. This is each item inside the cart. This is the index in the session array. So this means that these are the contents of session, shopping cart, 0. So see we have session, shopping cart, this count. Here that's equal to 0. And then we have product ID and quantity. If you look, same thing. Product ID is down here, and quantity is here. So we're storing the product ID and the quantity in here. We have it here. We're going to go ahead and add another product to our cart. We're going to add the silk shirt. Let's add 2 of them. So we'll add 2 silk shirts and view our cart. So you see we have product 2 and quantity 2. These variables aren't always going to match. We'll go ahead and add 1 of these. So this is our cell phone, and we have a quantity of 1. Okay? So we can now add things to our cart. The only problem is this isn't very meaningful for our customers because they don't know what the heck product 1 is, product 2, or product 3. So we probably want to display the actual name of the product. Now, since we have the product ID and we have the products array here, we can just pull the name right out of this products array by using the ID. So we're going to do this. We're going to display the name. This is probably going to get pretty confusing. I'll simplify this a little bit. So here's the product ID that we've gotten out of this. So products, product ID, name. So now we have this correctly, and now we want to also add the quantity. The quantity is something that's part of the actual product. So now we have the quantity of all of them displayed as well. So we have 1 sneakers, 2 Armani silk shirts, and 1 Samsung Constellation S17. It looks kind of ugly. Let's change the display format a little bit. Product, quantity. Let's try this. Watch this. There we go, much better. 1 X sneakers, 2 Armani red silk shirts, and 1 Samsung Constellation S17. Okay? There's one little problem with our cart that we're about to explore right now. What happens if you add an item into it twice? Let's go ahead and add some more constellations. We view the cart. This is kind of ugly. We got these items stacking up. We got 1 sneaker, 2 Armani silk shirts. See, this appears twice. This appears twice. So we don't really want to add that. So let's change our code that adds to the cart to check and see if the product is already in there. So post add to cart. Okay, we're going to do this. This is actually curious. Okay, there's a function we can use for this, but I don't know if it's actually going to work. So this is a problem. How do we check to see if a product is already in our cart? It's an interesting problem. Because if we our cart, we have basically the data structure of it looks like this. It kind of looks like this. This is what it looks like if you were to look at the array, right, and display it manually. So we have to search by the product ID. So we can actually be smarter about this. Instead of having this be a random number, let's have this be the actual product ID. I'll show you how this works in a second. So when we add the product, instead of using a random count, let's do this. We'll change this to be the product ID. The only reason we can get away with this is because each product is a unique ID. So Seekers is 1, Silk Shirt is 2, and Constellation is 3. So this ID will contain the number of which product it is, which makes this redundant, but we'll leave it in there for now. And then we can change this to check and see okay. I'm actually going to need to clear the cart here. Let's add the function for emptying the cart here. I'll explain how that works in a second. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to make a link for emptying the cart. I'm actually going to do this here. Oh, I need to add a little, hold on. There we go. So now I can empty the cart. What this does, by adding this get variable empty cart equals 1, it will load this page you see here. Index.php empty cart equals 1. So we get to this page, we scroll along, and that will trigger this. You see? It's a get variable. So to recap, anything on the URL here is a get variable. So it'll check for the empty cart variable. If that's true, it will take the session shopping cart and it'll set it to an empty array, because this is an empty array, which will mean there's nothing in it. Okay, now let's add some products. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 silk shirt to it. Okay. So we have 1 XR money red silk shirt in it. Now let's do this. Let's try adding the same thing to it again. Now we get this message that says the item is already in the cart. And it doesn't add it. So this is good. Oh, what? Wait, that's strange. Oh, I think it derped for a second. Okay, this seems to be working. Let's add some sneakers. Okay, yeah. So once the item is already in the cart, if we try to add it again, it tells us that it's already in the cart. Okay? So the way this works, when you add the item to the cart, instead of just using the incremental numbers here, we're actually adding it to the cart using its product ID as the key. So if we add the Armani silk shirt, which has the ID of 2, it will go in the array under session shopping cart 2. If we add the Samsung, it goes in under session shopping cart 3. If we add the sneakers, they go in under session shopping cart 1. So that means we can use the isSet function. If I haven't discussed this, this just checks to see if a variable is set, obviously as named. So this product ID here is going to be 1 if it's the sneakers, 2 if it's a silk shirt, and 3 if it's a Samsung. So we can use that to check and see if the item has been put in the cart, because now the items are put in the cart linked with their product ID. That actually renders this field here completely redundant. I'll remove that in a bit. Okay, so now since we can't add an item to the cart twice, we need to have a way to edit the quantity if it's already in the cart. And this code, by the way, is getting pretty stringy and kind of spaghetti code, if you can see it. Let's add a way to modify it here. So how should we do this? So we're looking at the cart here. We need to add a way for the user to be able to change the quantity of an item that's in the cart. We can have a text box here. Yeah, you know what let's do? Let's make the display for the cart a table. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to steal the table display we had for the products here for our cart. And we can access all the same information. This is what we did back here. We used the products right to display all the products. For this, our loop isn't going through all the actual products, it's only going through their IDs and quantities. So in order to access the information of the product, we need to use the ID like we did here. So this is how we're going to get each item out. Okay. Since this is kind of big, I'm going to put that on a line like that. Okay, so name, price, and category now. I also need to add the header. We're going to add a fourth thing here. Okay, there we go. Let's remove that. Let's see what the cart looks like now. Okay, so now our cart has name, price, category, and quantity. This is good. So we can now view this. Or we can go back to the cart. And the quantity is here. So we need to add a way to edit this quantity. Let's go ahead and we'll make this a text box instead, because look how Amazon does this. Amazon has this as a text box, right? So you can punch in the quantity you want and then hit update. I don't know, I guess one of these available. Well, that's lame. But anyways, you can do that. You can just do this as a text box.